evening, and tonight's topic on the Chrissy B Show is a woman's worth. What is a woman's worth? If you're a female watching this, what do you really think about yourself? Do you look at yourself in the mirror and like what you see, or are you always complaining that you're too fat or too slim? Do you celebrate your achievements, or do you always dwell on the mistakes you've made in the past, or the mistakes you make at work or at home? Now, often women put themselves down so much when there are so many lovely things about a woman. For example, her beauty, her caring character, her strength to keep it together for the children. There are so many great things about you women out there. So if you want to get in touch at any point to share your views during this program, you can give me a call, 020-7686-6300. You can tweet Chrissy B Show or Facebook The Chrissy B Show. So if you want more information, don't forget, we want to hear from you as well. We want to hear your opinion, so you can give us a call again, 020-7686-6300, and you can visit our website as well and submit a form there, chrissybshow.tv. We'll have some lovely guests on tonight. We have specialists in aesthetic medicine, Dr. Diane Keith, cosmetic doctor, Dr. Stephen Harris, and Ben Wilson, personal trainer, nutritionist, and mind coach. And we also have our regular development coach, Chris Brown, who'll be giving us some advice later on. And don't forget, remember last week when we said we were going to show you what he looks like with hair? So we actually have the picture to show you, because we had a hair for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, we had a hair show last week. And as you know, Chris is completely bald, but he does that on purpose. But we're going to show you what he looks like with hair. But first, let's introduce our guests, Dr. Diane Keith and Dr. Stephen Harris. Good evening, and thank you for coming to the show.
Good evening.
How are you both?
Thank you for having me. Very well, thank you.
So for the viewers that don't know, can you basically just give us a little brief about what you do and what you specialise in? Start with you, Dr. Harris.
Indeed. I'm a private GP and I specialise in cosmetic medicine. I also help people who are underconfident to actually explore all aspects of their personality, to really make the best of themselves in every single way. And I'm also a cruise doctor.
Oh, lovely. And I won't tell people where you're going tomorrow, but you're going to have a lovely cruise soon, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. I'm very lucky.
Okay, then, and you, Doctor?
Yeah, so I'm a GP as well, and I also specialise in cosmetic medicine. And I have a particular interest in mental health and cognitive behaviour therapy. So I specialise in an area of medicine dealing with body dysmorphic disorder, which I see a lot in my own practice and which I treat.
Okay. And do you get a lot of women coming to you for help? Mainly women, would you say, or?
No, not always. No, there's a growing proportion of men, actually, who have decided that it is now very acceptable to actually be treated, which is delightful. It really is. I mean, they should be.
Okay. So as the programme is about a woman's worth, what's like the #1 complaint that women normally have about themselves?
Well, for me, because I deal with cosmetic medicine, I would say they're unhappy with some aspect of their appearance, whether it be sort of wrinkles or loss of volume or their lips. So various aspects of their appearance, and that's what I would mainly deal with in my cosmetic practice. Yeah.
And how about you?
And I see an awful lot of people who unfortunately have anxiety, depression, and all the things that go with it. So again, it's a matter of elevating self-esteem, dealing with their looks, making sure they're eating the right things, making sure they're exercising, so that this anxiety and depression is actually treated.
Now, I know this is a very broad question, obviously, but why do you think a lot of women are very low on themselves? They're not very self-confident about their looks, especially, for example?
Well, I think that women are underconfident, generally, and they have an awful lot to cope with these days. I mean, 50 years ago, women knew exactly what their role was. But because of education, they've been liberated sexually and intellectually, and so they have enormous choices. So they don't have to marry, they don't have to have children. And these pressures that are put on women, women are looking after their elderly relatives, they're looking after children, they're going out and doing a full day's work, and also looking after a house. And consequently, the pressures are enormous, and this leads to the anxiety, depression, and sometimes they don't look after themselves very well. So their appearance tends to go. And this is why we need always to look at our appearance, because that leads to a lot of self-confidence.
Okay.
That's true. I think also the media plays a very important role in terms of expectations and the kind of things we see in magazines and on TV and things like that, which are produce almost unrealistic kind of goals for a lot of women. And I think that puts them in a very difficult position.
And a lot of, obviously, we know that there's Photoshop out there.
That's right.
And, you know, every time you look at a magazine and you see a person with the perfect body and the perfect skin, they're not perfect because they have been, something's been done in, you know, but with Photoshop. So that's not, you know, a photograph. It shouldn't be compared to a real person.
Absolutely.
Right? So it is a lot of pressure, especially for youngsters as well.
Absolutely. I mean, as you say, you've only got to look at the media. And they'll say this is the perfect person, you've got to have the whitest teeth, you've got to have the most beautiful figure. And people are themselves, they should be themselves, they should look inside themselves and think, who am I? And I'm beautiful because I'm me, and not these pressures from other places.
Now, I know obviously you're both very responsible in your work and everything, but I know that also that there are certain doctors out there that will just treat anyone without really getting to the bottom of what their problem really is. And you were telling me about something very interesting before.
Yes, I think you have to be very careful with who you deal, and in particular there is this condition called body dysmorphic disorder, which is an image disorder other than anorexia, which I know you specialize in. And you've got to watch out for these people because they are essentially very depressed and at very high risk of suicide. And they present with what is a perceived defect where there is none, and a very good example is the late Michael Jackson. And it's a fairly common condition, so it's up to 15% of the cosmetic population where patients will present in this way. And really, the way forward is not to treat them cosmetically, but they require more sort of intensive therapeutic help, psychological as well as medication to help sort their problem out.
What do you think actually causes people to have this condition?
We're not sure. The answer is we don't know, but it's probably a combination of things, including genetics and also having sort of unrealistic expectations put on people and the media involved and so forth. So I think there's probably a whole lot of reasons for it, but we don't know exactly why it happens to some people and not to others.
And obviously, if a person is okay, what they come to you with is a genuine problem, or they want to improve their looks. You know, what kind of things do you do? Because I saw on your website about face peeling that helps with the acne and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that would treat the skin itself. Then of course there's Botox, which I'm sure everyone's heard of, which is muscle relaxing injections to help the sort of smooth out the overlying skin. And then there are also fillers to fill in areas of volume loss and to restore volume and shape where it's been lost. So these are all things to do with appearance, which can help a person's self-esteem as well.
Right, but no, it doesn't. Well, it helps because if, for example, I know, like, if you guys have had a spot before on your face, I know how it is. You feel very paranoid. So can imagine someone that has a lot of you know, spots or acne on their face. They must feel very uncomfortable. Something like that is brilliant. But then, as you were saying, if the issue is more deep-rooted than that, a bit of Botox or, you know, some of the other things, it's not going to solve the problem because you're still, okay, you're going to look nice on the outside, but inside, the problem's still going to be there.
That's right. So you need to learn to differentiate the two.
You need to assess the whole person, to be honest, and decide exactly what each individual needs, and then take it from there. And I think that's very important, to look at everybody as a whole and see what they need, whether a psychological problem or, in fact, it's just a mere wanting to look younger problem.
Now, is it a problem to want to look younger, do you think?
No. I think it's a very natural thing, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing entirely.
Provided you have realistic expectations.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, can you tell us about the eating disorders as well, because you deal with people regularly on that?
I do. I deal with a lot of anorexics. Anorexia nervosa was actually defined by Queen Victoria's physician back in 1837, and he defined it as people actually taking in very, very few calories, but they have this distorted image of themselves, and they still think they're fat when they look in the mirror. And in fact, they could only be taking in 500, 600 calories a day. And this obviously leads to all sorts of problems. You're dealing with somebody who is actually starving. And it starts younger and younger these days. It used to be about 11, 12, but now we are finding children of 7 and 8 with anorexia.
Where does that come from, though? That's such a young age.
I wish we knew, but there are various sort of thoughts on this. My own personal thought is that it's a control element. There is an element of control. And when you can't control anything else in your life, then you can control the food that you put in your mouth. And nobody can actually, stop you. So that's one idea. But there's all sorts of different reasons for anorexia. And it's not only confined to women. Many people think it is. But 10% of anorexics are actually men. Really? Yes, indeed.
I've never actually seen cases of that, because normally, when we watch these TV programs that show that trying to help.
I quite agree.
We don't see the men going through it. 10%
of anorexics are men, yes. Yes. A difficult condition to treat, and I wonder whether you ever actually treat it. I think you learn to live with it or control it and teach people how to get over their anorexia. But I do wonder whether people are ever cured.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to people that, they are going through a hard time, they're looking at themselves in the mirror and they're thinking, oh, I don't know, I don't really like what I see, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling a bit depressed about it. What advice would you both give, do you think?
Come and talk.
Yes.
Come and talk to us.
They're welcome to come for a consultation. It's free of charge.
Absolutely. And just try and talk through the fears and what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And then I usually do a plan with people. And I say, well, why don't we do this today, this tomorrow, and in the meantime, perhaps you lose a little bit of weight, go and do your exercise, step up your vitamins, especially your vitamin B and C, and talk through a plan so that at the end of sort of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they've actually achieved a lot.
And obviously, I think women do tend to go through a harder time than men do sometimes with appearance. Why do you think that is? I know men do as well. But why do you think?
There's more and more pressure on men as well, don't you think? Also?
I don't know, you tell me. Tell me about the pressures that men go through.
Well, I think it's also to do with appearance, and there's more, and if you just sort of even look at my practice, there's a growing male population as well, and it's grown every year in terms of cosmetic treatments as well. So that sort of says something. Okay. So it's becoming also more acceptable. For men to look after themselves.
Maybe the issue was always there, but like you're saying, it wasn't the in thing for a man to go to improve himself or to even put face cream on, for example, because that was seen as a bit strange for men to do. But many men do. Look, my husband does. He puts face cream on.
And these days, there's some very nice products as well that men can have. Yeah. So it's made especially for them. And I think that helps enormously. Yeah. So they can pick up these lovely products and use them.
Yeah. So what we're saying is there's nothing wrong with looking after yourself. There's nothing wrong with going for treatments if you need to get them done, especially if if your job, for example, you're an actor, actress, you're a model, basically your looks. You need your looks for your work, so I can understand. So there's nothing wrong with doing all these things to make yourself look better and, doing your exercise and everything like that. But if there is an underlying issue, you really need to get to the root of that, because you can, like we said, you can have all the treatments that you want, but if you don't deal with what's inside, no matter what you have done on the outside, it's not going to make you happy. Would you agree?
Correct.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
It has to be the whole person.
Yeah, and you really should talk to someone if you are going through something like this. Well, thank you both so much for giving your advice.
Thank you very much.
Tonight. It's lovely having you.
My pleasure.
So if you do want to get in touch with us at any point, you can email Chris at chrissybshow.tv. You can also give us a call 020 7686 6300. There will be someone to take your call. And after the break, we'll also be talking to Ben Wilson, who's been on before. You might remember him. He was a personal trainer, nutritionist and mind coach. And he's going to be telling us about the nutritional part of things and also giving some tips on how to lose weight effectively. So that's going to be after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, where we are speaking about a woman's worth. And just before we speak to our next guest, Ben Wilson, we're going to go to our good cause of the week, which was a women's resource centre.
I'm here with Vivian Hayes, Chief Executive of Women's Resource Centre. So Vivian, can you tell me a little bit about the work you do?
Yes, we're the national organisation for women's charities who work with women delivering services, in many cases life-saving services for women and their children. Since being a child, I've always been interested in rights and equality, so I think it's kind of in my blood in some way. But I've also had personal experiences of discrimination and domestic violence, which led me to look for support from a women's organisation. When we look around, what support is there for mothers? There's lots of criticism, but not a lot of support, whereas often fathers can father children and then not be present, and yet the woman's left with the responsibility and often the blame.
Why do we need women's organisation?
Well, apart from the services that they provide, which I said can often be life-saving, if we look at changes to rape, for instance, rape in marriage only became illegal in this country in 1991, and that was achieved through concerted efforts from women's organisations. So if we want to create a society where women have their full rights, then we do need women's organisations desperately, because without them we have no ability to gather the evidence and information, and more importantly, nobody speaking out on our behalf.
And how can people get involved with your organisation?
They can follow us on Twitter, they can look at us on Facebook, go to the website, they can find out what women's organisations might be in their area that are members of ours, and they can offer their support to them. And also women can just start talking about the issues that maybe they're not talking about to each other.
Thank you so much, Vivian. For more information, the website is on the bottom of our screen now, so please do check it out.
Thanks very much, Joanne. So now we have Ben Wilson with us, who's going to be giving some tips and advice on the nutritional side of things. And if you've had those, niggling questions about nutrition or about weight loss, anything like that, so you should stay glued to the screen, because you're going to give us some great advice, aren't you, Ben?
I am.
So welcome back to the show.
Thanks for
having me.
It's
lovely to have you again.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell the viewers, first of all, what you do, just in case they didn't see you last time.
I basically help people get in shape, get the goals, get the body that they want. And we do that through a combination of looking at thinking patterns in the mind, exercise and nutrition. Because to get your goals realistically and to be able to keep them, you're going to have to work on all three areas. Because as I'm sure you're aware, most people make a little bit of progress, then back to where they started. They never get the actual results, the actual body that they want to achieve.
Okay. And are your clients mainly men or women?
I'd probably say it's about 60% women, 40% men. So it's almost split down the middle, a tiny bit more perhaps on the women's side, but it's fairly even distribution.
Okay then. And what is the number one complaint that women come to you with?
Yeah, number one is trying to get rid of the arms, body fat on the arms, excess body fat, basically trying to get back to that dress size. That's the main issue that people want to get. And obviously when I'm at parties or whatever, people come and say, how do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of this? And so forth. So that's the main issue we have.
Okay. Now, in dealing with so many women on a daily basis, because the show is about women's worth.
Yeah.
Why do you think women put themselves down so much, from what you've seen?
I think it's very tough in, rightly or wrongly, society judges women on looks, and I think a lot of women feel that sort of pressure. And then the whole culture for women also is that, they've always got to be trying, to get in better shape, because, not everybody I work with, you look at some of the clients and you think, well, they're in great shape already, but even to them, they're not, enjoying their body, accepting for where they are. So there is that pressure, I think, too, that it's almost wrong to accept yourself for looking good,
Yeah, and all never satisfied with what you have syndrome kind of thing.
Exactly, where, it puts you in the real wrong place to get results. The idea sort of is that if I hate myself for my body, that will motivate me to go forwards. That doesn't really work. It'd be better to accept yourself for where you are and be inspired to get to that next level.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Because, the moment you feel you have to achieve something, it's almost like, your parents telling you to do something, you immediately resent back towards it. And this is the problem with, if I have to lose weight because society wants me to get a partner or keep a partner or whatever, that just gives you a lot of resentment, so that, perhaps you want to eat right, perhaps you want to exercise, but that's enough to make you sort of fight back against it. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And talking about weight loss now.
Yeah.
Now, I was reading something on your website that you don't necessarily agree that it's all about calories and calorie counting and stuff like that. So how do you help people then if they want to reach like a weight loss goal?
Well, definitely, there's, you know, calories are part of the picture, but it's not the whole picture, and that's what people need to understand. And if we're eating too much food per se, that's going to cause trouble. If we're eating too little food per se, that's going to cause trouble on the other end, because you're going to get food cravings, or if you're really motivated, you know, as the doctor was talking about before, if you're really cutting calories, it does have trouble effects on the body. So, you know, what we have to do is make sure we're getting that nutrition in the right place. But what I do when I work with people nutrition-wise is tuning in to the reactions you get post-eating from your body. 'Cause your body's going to tell you everything you need to know, but you just got to be, you know, wise enough to listen to it. And this is what most people aren't doing. So, you know, it might be January, we start a new diet, and then I'm starving, hungry, craving, no energy. Well, that's your body telling you, hold up, you know, something's not quite right here. And it could be you're pretty close, but unless you add that last 20%, you just won't get the results in that respect.
And obviously one thing may not necessarily work for another person, would it?
That's another big problem we get. We're all told that it's one size fits all, but you know, the whole basis of my approach with people is that you can have wildly different needs from one person to the next. So, you know, this is why out there's all those contradictory diets. You know, you might be following a vegetarian diet thinking it's healthy, and then somebody will come along following an Atkins diet and he'll say, I got great results, or she'll say, I got great results. The reality is these different diets exist because different people need different food plans. So the key thing is not who's right at the end of the spectrum.
Just finding what's right
for you. And your body's going to give you clues to that on how it reacts, how it feels. So it's about coaching people to listen to these and to know what to listen to and what's, you know, slightly off and so forth.
And can you give us some of your top tips on how to become healthy?
Well, healthy, again, if we talk in the nutrition side of things, it obviously comes from where, you know, people always want, what's the advice? Well, it comes a little bit from where you're at right now. If you're, you know, eating a normal diet that most people eat, then it's probably going to have too little protein in it because most people don't eat enough protein. If you're on a healthy diet, then most people are probably under-eating on fat, probably under-eating on carbohydrates. So they have to actually, because you know, they're trying to eat like lettuce all day long and wonder why they're starving, you know. So for them, it's about, again, changing things up. So, you know, food-wise, I would say it's just about tuning into your body. So stop putting your head in the sand and ignoring those cravings. Go back to your meals and start manipulating it to find what's going on.
Can I ask what you have for breakfast?
So breakfast is an interesting one. To me, breakfast is, you know, no different to what I'd have for dinner. Do you see what I mean? So, you know, if I'm on tuna and vegetables for dinner, I could equally have that at 6 in the morning before clients. It's just culturally here to bowl of cereal.
See, I would never
for
think
breakfast.
of doing that. My husband can have curry first thing in the morning, but I just think like breakfast is like toast or yogurt or something like that.
And
so
that's
it's
just a culture thing. You know, if you get out, you know, and travel to other countries, it's like that. You go to, you know, Asia, they do have curries for breakfast. You know, Japan has raw fish. And obviously, you know, logically, you know, if we're having cereal for breakfast, shouldn't we be having it for night as well? But no, it's a cultural thing. So for a lot of people, cereal's like their worst meal of the day, and they're having it 7 days a week, and then they wonder why Saturday night and Friday night is causing so much trouble. Well, it's already the 9th meal you got wrong, not the first of the week, and this is the approach. So, you know, for me, breakfast is no different to dinner, but it does take a little bit of transition. I've been doing this for years, but for other people, it takes that transition over, do you see?
Okay, and what about exercise?
So exercise in a motivational sense, you just mentioned there, the key thing is trying to find the enjoyment in it. And this is where a lot of people struggle. But, you know, there's so many different ways to exercise, and you've also just got to look at how sort of things work. Like, for example, if you remember when you were learning to drive, you know, nobody really enjoys learning to drive those first couple of lessons when you're all over the place, stressed, sweating. Well, exercise is exactly the same. Most people don't know what they're doing, you know. So, you know, how would you ever go to a real busy gym not knowing what you're doing and expect to feel comfortable? It's not going to happen. And then, you know, the whole gym thing, there's so many different ways to exercise. You don't need to go to a gym if you hate it. If you like it, brilliant. But if you hate it, there are other ways to do it, you know, from whether it's parks, home routines, you know, and for you, it's to find what is it that I'm into. And, you know, most people, especially when they're taught
really
properly.
Don't have time, like it's really hard to fit it in your busy schedule. What do you do?
Yeah, definitely. I think people overestimate exercise. If I had to do the exercise program that most people do, I'd probably quit after 2 weeks, to be honest. You know, if you told me to go to the gym and sit an hour on a cross trainer and a treadmill, you know, shoot me, please. That's, you know, I couldn't do it. Do you see? And this is where a lot of people go wrong. If you've got 10 minutes, you can do a good workout. You know, if I want to do a 10-minute run, can't get to the gym, run 5 minutes that way out the door, and then run 5 minutes back.
So that's really refreshing to hear, because sometimes people don't bother starting because they have this thing in their mind, if I don't do like the recommended thing, I don't know what they're saying now, it's like 30 minutes per day exercise, then I might as well not do anything at all because I'm just not going to do it. But then the way you're saying it now, that's actually quite motivating for me and for a lot of people.
I think people just forget the realism of the real world, you know, and what you need to be doing in that sense. But you know, exercise-wise, the two main reason people don't exercise is either one, they haven't got time, so like haven't got time for the hour session, well, do 10 minutes, or number two is they feel they always have to go the same effort level. So they're like, oh, I don't fancy going level 15 or lifting weight 10. And as a result, they don't do it. But the reality is, if your body is stressed, then it doesn't want to be smashed. You see what I mean? It wants to be sort of given a bit of loving. So the idea is, if you tell yourself, right, instead of my hour workout, I'm going to do 10 minutes at an easy level, 9 times out of 10, you'll outwit yourself to want to do it. And the one time you don't, you probably didn't need to do it anyway. Do you see?
That is so motivating, Ben. I feel really inspired to do some exercise because I haven't done any. Well, it's been a couple of weeks, and then before that, it was about a month.
That's what
Because of time, really.
I have like this sort of system you can use before a session where you rate yourself, 0 to 10. How motivated am I to train? So it could be a 2. How motivated am I to push myself?
Minus 2.
And then how important is my goal to me? When you start asking these questions before, you'll get a score. So if you're coming in saying, look, I'm super motivated, I really want to push myself, and my goal is really important, well, then you can start firing up the exercise. If it's the other side of the things, then maybe you should just stretch. And if you keep getting these same scores, then you've got to step back a bit and go, why are you always feeling this way, and so forth.
Okay. I was reading some interesting things in your book here as well. Can you tell us about how emotions affect a person when they're trying to reach certain health goals? Because I know women are very emotional, especially at certain times of the month, and it does kind of affect our behaviour sometimes.
Definitely. The whole idea being that emotions and your goal are pretty much, they're going to come hand in hand in two main facets. One, your emotions are going to determine your long-term behaviours. So if you want to do exercise long-term, you're going to have to find a way to emotionally get it so that you enjoy it to some degree. Because you can force yourself to go January, but if you keep hating it, it's going to drop off by February, March. So we need to get you emotionally so that all your behaviours to help you get you the results are going to be, favourable in that sense. The other side of thing is just the way emotions work when you've got too much stress and negative emotion. The natural outlet is human behaviour is to rely on addictive behaviours. Now, for some people, that's drinking, for some people, it's smoking, but for the vast majority of the population, it's eating food. So, and it's not celery you're eating when you're stressed, it's always, whatever, chocolates, cakes, and so forth. In normal terms, the very food you're trying to give up is the very food you live on when you're stressed. So it's a little bit like telling a cigarette smoker not to smoke, then doing it because of the stress involved. So what you have to understand is, if we can bring down your stress levels, then you're going to have less dependency on that food. Because, a lot of people beat themselves, especially women, they beat themselves up so much for having a chocolate bar a day or something. But, when you look at their behaviours, they don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't go out partying, they don't gamble. So you're thinking, well, there's a lot of addictive behaviours they could be doing. You have to have a
little bit of fun with a bar of chocolate.
And they're down to that bar of chocolate, and then they're trying to give that up too, and then they wonder why when they're stressed, they can't do it to such a degree. So, emotions, to be able to handle that is vitally important for, long-term results.
Okay. And one of the chapters that I found quite interesting is called, did it just go from my mind? Let me get back to it. Hang on. Let me find here.
Contents page.
Yes, let me find the contents page because I did see something here. Oh, yeah. Getting in shape is expensive.
So, what the section of the book is all about is that it's false beliefs that we have.
Yeah.
They're not right or wrong beliefs, but if you believe it, the more strongly you believe it, the harder it'll be for you to get results. So the idea that, it costs a lot of money to
eat healthily sometimes, you don't have to.
It depends on which avenue of healthily you're going down. So, and there are so many ways you can choose. For example, to exercise in the park is free. You just find out an exercise routine, just go on YouTube. There's millions of them out there.
Do you think it's just an excuse for people that don't really want to, aren't motivated enough to,
the idea
go
is,
and do something?
Yeah, money can certainly become an issue, but there's probably 100 things you can do before money becomes that issue. Do you understand? So if I'm eating a sensitive food, say I'm sensitive to bread, it doesn't cost me anything to stop eating that. That's an experiment I can do. Does it
Saves
cost
money.
Exactly. Does it cost anything to change the ratios on your plate? It doesn't cost anything there. Where you can find the expense comes is when you go organic food eating. But like I said, there's another 20, 30, 40 things you can do before you get there as an experimentation. So I can see why people say that, or they feel they have to have a trainer to get results.
They don't.
The reality is, there's another way to get there. Obviously, if you've got unlimited money, it's going to be easy to do, in some respects, but you still got to get the work done. And this is the great thing, or the hard thing about being in shape is that, you know, all the money in the world doesn't, you still got to do it. You know what I mean? You know, I met a guy recently who was, you know, trains 5 days a week with, he got a client who needs 5 days a week, but he's still out of shape. You know, the idea is, you know, the client's still got to eat his meals and still got to train. So, you know.
So it's great if you can afford a personal trainer and to get all your organic food, but if you can't, or if you can't afford it, there are ways, everyone can find a way of being healthy and doing some exercise as well. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today and for all the advice. And if you do want more information, Ben's details are on our website, chrissybshow.tv. Well, after the break, we're going to be joined by Chris Brown, who'll be telling us about ways to get motivated and to boost your self-confidence. So join us after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, where we are speaking about a woman's worth. And now we have our regular that comes on every Wednesday, and that's Chris Brown. And he's going to be telling us 7 ways on how to boost your self-esteem. So over to you, Chris.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing yourself?
I'm very well.
Yeah?
Very confident.
Very confident. I could see that. I thought it was really brilliant what we was talking about earlier on, actually, with your guest. Who was talking about worth as well.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about a few things, and I listed a few as well, which I thought was pretty apt to what we was talking about, because we're talking about here building self-esteem. And a lot of reasons, we can't actually say why people lose their self-esteem. Sometimes it could be something when they were younger, it could have been a lot of telling off, or the one big thing which makes a big mistake is people comparing themselves to others.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Especially women.
Oh, yes.
I keep saying that, but I know it's men as well now. They're just sort of, it was just hidden for many years, but now it's all coming to the surface.
Many years. I think men are, they do it in a different sort of way at the end of the day. But self-esteem is a lot of comparing. And the more you compare yourself to someone, the more you minimize yourself. So you keep comparing yourself with somebody who's got something that you haven't got, might look the way you wish to look or whatever. You're minimizing yourself, you're shrinking yourself, you're being pretty negative about yourself. The only person you need to compete with is you, to be the better you the day after, as I always mention. Now, what I've put together is 7 steps of how you can start to begin to build your self-esteem. Right? Now, step 1, don't start your day by reading all the negative stuff.
You're talking about your average newspaper here? Or?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Every day. Imagine getting up in the day. First thing in the morning, read the papers.
But there's nothing else.
Oh,
That's all you get in the newspapers.
Oh, but think
Switch
about
on the well, actually the Olympics now, so it's
well, you've got
good,
Olympics now, you've got distraction, but still at the same time, the whole idea of getting up first thing in the morning before you've done anything and start going on the internet, looking at news and everything like that. Don't get me wrong, you've got to be informed, you've got to take information in, but just think about this. This is the first thing in the day. And what you've done is put a lot of junk inside your head. Oh, they just say, a bomb's about to go off. When the explosion, sun's going to drop out of the sky, this is going to happen, oh, that's going to happen, this is going to happen. And no matter how much you actually take and put inside, I've read the news today, you're going to actually be filled with that throughout the day. And it's not going to give you confidence. It's not going to make you feel sure. You're going to be a bit uneasy throughout the day. So I'd be careful about what you actually put into your mind.
Something I've never thought of, you know.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I've actually done it myself. I remember talking to my wife first thing on the iPhone saying, did you know so-and-so got kidnapped and got so-and-so place where we're about to travel to? Oh. Right? And I thought, why did I say that? I have to check myself all the time as well. Yeah? So that's number 1. Number 2, stop listening to that little voice inside your head that keeps criticizing, self-criticism. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Because sometimes you're about to do something, or you might just look in the mirror and not like the way you look. That little voice says, oh, you don't look good. Or, oh, you've got to go and meet someone. You think, oh, I can't speak to that person. Oh, I've got to go to an interview. Oh, no, can't do that. Or just in your workplace as well, alone self, thinking, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's not good enough. Everything's not good enough. You've got to be good enough because it's you at the end of the day. You know, stop criticizing yourself for every little thing that you do. Start to think about the good sides. There are a lot of good aspects towards you. You've got to think about those and put those forward. Focus more on your strengths, right? Get rid of that little criticizing voice inside your head.
Actually, Chris, just before we finish, I'm going to give everyone a bit of homework
Okay.
that I did, that someone challenged me to do, and I think it's going to help a lot of people to be less critical of themselves. But I'll
Okay.
tell you afterwards.
Oh,
Let you
brilliant,
speak
great.
first.
Well, I think I'll join in on that.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Right, okay. All right, here we go. Number 4. Big
3.
one. Did I go 3? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm jumping. I'm going to, I think it's getting to the end.
Yeah.
Right, all right. Number 3. Get away from negative people. Stay away from them. Get away from negative people.
Yeah.
Stay away from them. Begin to surround yourself with people who are actually championing you, who's supporting you in everything that you do. Negative people sometimes, will say things that will put you down, or not only directly at you, they just have a perspective looking at the world in a negative way. That's going to rub off on you in a while. It's not going to do good for your self-esteem as well. So you need to really think about it and evaluate who's around you. Who do you surround yourself with? Where are they going? What are they doing? Because if you don't, it rubs off on you after a while, and you pick up that negativity as well. Okay? So
The only problem is, though, I can understand if it's friends and stuff, but sometimes it can be family members, and it's quite hard to kind of avoid them.
right.
So, I mean, I don't know what you suggest people would do in that instance, but maybe just not spend that much time with them, maybe? Or what do you think?
They are your family. You can't actually
Yeah.
run away from them.
Or just
But
speak to them about it and
you
say,
can
look,
either speak to them, exactly, tell them directly, how come you always come out with this? Why is that? But sometimes people actually don't like that. So there's ways of doing it. Tell me something negative now. Tell me something negative now.
you're boring.
I'm boring. Am I? Right. No, I'm joking.
Of course
Right.
not. You'll be
So
on my
here
show
we
if
are.
you were boring. You'll be here every
No,
week,
but
every
seriously,
Wednesday.
if you just said to me,
Yeah.
I'm boring, well, why do you say that all the time? Why do you always say things like this? Sooner or while, you're going to start thinking about it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I was joking, but if I did go, I absorb, you said I'm boring. Am I? And I start thinking about it, and I start shrinking. I think, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
That's rubbish. You've got to cut that out. You've got to be able to stand up and deal with this. Surround yourself with people who are championing you, who are going forward, people who are on your side, people who are positive. Those that you admire, you think, wow, that's great. How do you do that? Go and speak to them. Yeah?
Great, yeah.
Important, right? Okay, number 4. This is about you, yourself. Stop gossiping.
Cool.
Number 4, stop gossiping.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that help
Stop
boost your
gossiping.
confidence? Or
Right,
self-esteem?
okay. Imagine this. Here we are. Everything you do, I go and talk about all the time. Am I going to feel comfortable around you after? I'm going to start shrinking. My self-esteem is going to be shrunk instead. The gossiping about someone and gossiping about everything is very negative. It's a negative force. It doesn't help. It's not
Some
producing
people
anything
see it's just a
positive.
bit of fun, like just a bit of pastime.
Yeah.
Your mates, you know.
But then you've got to ask yourself, well, why does that entertain you? Small things entertain small minds,
Yep.
right? So we have to really think about it. Gossiping is the negative thing, right? I'm not saying you're not going to have a laugh with your friends and chat about things, say, oh, you're gossiping, you're gossiping, you're gossiping. No. But you've got to be aware of what is gossip, what is positive, and what is negative, all right? Stay away from it. That's number 4. Okay, number 5. I think we've all been here. Learn to forgive you. We make mistakes in life. Forgive you, right? Stop looking back and reversing on the mistakes that you made in the past in your life. Start to forgive you. Let go of the past. You can only look ahead at the future, right? Many things have happened in life. That's the way we learn. We trip up, we make mistakes along the way. That's how we evolve, and we hope that we don't make the same mistakes. So start to forgive you for the mistakes you've made, okay? Sorry?
I agree with that.
You agree with that, right.
I'm just not saying anything because we haven't got long left. So I'm trying
Okay,
not to
right,
take
hold
the
it
time
till
from
the end, forgive
from
it.
the other points.
Okay, number 6, focus and work on your strengths. Focus and work on your strengths. That goes back to the one I said earlier about working out the good things about you, working on, focusing on your strengths and building on them. And to round it up, we got number 7. Here we go. Be optimistic about you. Be optimistic about you. That's the main thing, because being optimistic about you is to look ahead in the future and stop thinking about in a pessimistic way, oh, I can't do this, oh, I won't do that. That's for somebody else to achieve. I won't do this, I won't that. Stop that. Back to the same critical voice, right? Be optimistic about you, go for it. And so first, and overall, just to say that, go for it, go for these steps, work on them, bit by bit, and you'll begin to build your self-esteem in how you do things.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I know you have quite a high self-esteem because you won't be bringing along this photograph of you with hair, because remember last week we did a program all about hair, and we promised to show you Chris with hair because he actually shaves his head. If he left his head to grow, he'd actually have a big afro, wouldn't you?
Well, can I say something about
Yeah,
that? Actually, you know, you said that, bring this photograph along. When I said to you last week, you said something, I said, oh, but I'll show you a picture with hair. And I was actually talking about you, and I thought, why did I say this on camera? That meant everybody.
That means everyone watching
So
as well, because
I had
this is
to keep
everyone's
on with it.
living room. All right, so let's bring up the picture of Chris with hair. There you go, everybody. And I said to him, it doesn't actually look real, but he assures me that, you know, this is his real hair, and that it wasn't stuck on or anything like that.
It's not Photoshop, it's not stuck on, it's my hair.
And the good thing is you were confident then and you're confident now about yourself as well, which is great. So hair
Thank
or
you.
no hair.
Hair or no hair, I'm right here.
Before and
That's a good one.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for those really valuable tips. And
Much
I did
pleasure,
promise
Chrissy.
as well that I would give a little bit of homework that's going to help you as well to overcome your self-esteem issues. Now, this was something that I was actually asked to do along with another group of women. And we were to think of 27 things that are good about ourselves and to write them down. So this could be about your character, about your looks, about your achievements, anything at all. Now, to be honest, I found it really hard to write this list. I got to about like 10. I got 10 points. And I started to think, God, it felt very foreign to do this because I thought, oh, you know, it's like I'm being arrogant. But actually, no, it's not being arrogant. How come it's so easy for you to criticize yourself and say bad things about yourself? I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that. So why is it so easy to do that and so hard to say the good things about you? And when I actually got past 10, I actually got to more than 27 things in the end. And I felt great. And I thought, actually, well, look, there are quite a few good things about me. So if you do the same exercise, what I'm asking people to do is to actually put it on my Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. I've already put my 27 things there if you want to read them. And I'd love for you to do the same as well. And I'm sure that after writing this list, you're going to feel so much better about yourself and celebrate your achievements and celebrate the things that are great about you. And Chris, would you do it as well?
Oh, I'll join in that, I'll
my,
post it,
yeah?
Excellent.
Okay. So you'll see Chris's 27 points as well there. So that's all we have time for today. So we'll be back again on Friday. But before we go, let's play this YouTube funny video and we'll see you again next time on The Chrissy B Show. Bye-bye for now.